Good morning, one and all. I welcome you all to this third day of the online lecture series on the paper The English Novel prescribed in MA Part 1 Semester 2 Master's Degree in English of Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University, Nagpur. Friends, the resource person for the day, the series is being jointly organized by J.M. Patel, College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Bhandara, Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya Jaripatka, Nagpur, and Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur. The presentation for the session of this session will be on the novel Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, and the resource person is Dr. Karthick Panicker. Sir is heading the Department of English at J.M. Patel Arts, Commerce and Science College, Bhandara. He is also IQAC coordinator and has over 27 years of teaching experience at UG and PG level. Former chairperson of Board of Studies in Languages of Science faculty. Sir at present is a Board of Studies member of English in Humanities faculty as well as in Science faculty. He has more than 20 research papers to his credit, which have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and has edited more than 8 textbooks which have been prescribed for different undergraduate programs of the university. Sir has been a member of the syllabus revision committees for different UG courses. On behalf of the participating students and the organizing colleges, I welcome Sir to this session and hand over the mic to him for his presentation. Over to you, Karthik, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Kapil Singhal. Good morning, Dr. Madhavin Moril. A very good morning to all my dear students. It is indeed an honor to be a part of this online lecture series that the 3 colleges have organized, and as one of the organizers of this online lecture series, I must thank the principals of the 3 colleges, the principal of J.M. Patel College, Dr. Vikas Domne, the principal of Rajkumar Keval Ramani Mahavidyalaya, Dr. Urmila Dabir, the director of Vasantrao Naik Institute of Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, Dr. Sadhna Shilidar, for having consented to organize this online lecture series for MA Semester 2 students. Now, it has been a really wonderful journey where we had these 3 institutions collaborating on many occasions and arranging online as well as offline programs. Now, today, my presentation is on one of the finest novels that we can have from Henry James, that is The Portrait of a Lady. This is paper 4, unit 3. Let me share my screen. Kapil sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So before going into the text proper, let us see some important facts about Henry James. Now, Henry James was an American British author. Why American British author? Because he spent a great part of, in fact, a very important part of his life in America and then moved to Britain. He died as a British citizen. He got British citizenship in 1915, just a year before his death. Now, if you can see his lifespan, it is 1843 to 1916. That means he lived a great part, in fact, a great part of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. So he could see a lot of influences, lot of changes that were taking place in the world, especially in America and Britain. Now, these are two countries that have a relationship that goes back to some 5 centuries, and people have been moving into America and into Britain from America for various reasons. Now, many of those writers actually relocated to Europe from America for various reasons. At the same time, some of them relocated to the US also for, let us say, greener pastures or better readers. Now, Henry James is considered as a key transitional figure between literary realism and literary modernism. He is considered to be many among the greatest novelists in the English language. Now, his novels deal with the social and marital interplay between expatriate Americans, Americans who moved out of America. We call them expatriate Americans, the English and the continental Europeans. And The Portrait of a Lady, the novel that we are going to study today, is a fine example of this. His later works, such as The Ambassadors, The Wings of the Dove, and The Golden Bowl, were increasingly experimental. They are considered very experimental novels. And James was a master in describing the internal state of mind and social dynamics of his characters. And we'll see a lot of it when we get into the details of The Portrait of a Lady. Now, James published articles and books of criticism. He traveled a lot, wrote about his travels. He wrote autobiography, his own autobiography, biographies and plays. Now, James was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature thrice, in 1911, 1912, and 1916. But unfortunately, he couldn't bag the Nobel Prize. But he was, I suppose, he was beyond all that. Now, coming to the text proper, The Portrait of a Lady was published in 3 volumes in 1881. It's a voluminous novel. It's a voluminous text. Before being published as a novel, it was originally published as a serial in the Atlantic Monthly and Macmillan's Magazine between 1980 and 81. Between 1880 and 1881. Now, let us see the text. Now, the protagonist of this novel is Isabel Archer, a very fiercely independent young woman from Albany, New York. She has lost her mother at a very young age and has been brought up by her father. She is a well-read girl, very educated girl. Her father has tried his level best to see to it that his daughter gets the best of education. And it is this education, this wide reading that Isabel Archer has done that has shaped her persona, that has shaped her personality. Now, at the age of 23, she loses her father, and it is at the invitation of her maternal aunt, Mrs. Touchett, that she decides to move to England, because Mrs. Touchett's husband and son, they both live in England, and because now she's an orphan, Mrs. Touchett requests her, in fact invites her to come with her, and Isabel Archer readily agrees. She likes travel a lot, and she doesn't see any point in staying in the US now, because her father is no more. So she agrees to the invitation of Mrs. Touchett, her maternal aunt, and moves to England. Now, when she reaches England, she has never met her uncle, Mr. Touchett, and her cousin Ralph. You know, they are very happy to see her, and they extend a very warm welcome to her at Garden Court. That is the name of the Touchett family estate. Now, it is full screen मेरे इसमें yeah एक मिनट Kapil, is my slide moving? Can you just confirm?
No, sir.
It's not moving. एक minute, just a minute. Now is it moving?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
It is visible now.
No, but it is it moving now?
Actually, full screen is not there, sir.
But
I've
done it slideshow. Even I don't know what I should be doing now.
But it is visible, sir. The slides
no,
are moving.
Are the slides moving? You know, can you see the slides moving?
Yeah, but it is not on the mode of slideshow.
I suppose there must be any update. There must be some update issue because I have done it full screen. But can I proceed with it?
Yeah, it is visible, sir. It is clearly visible.
Okay. So she gets this very warm welcome in the garden court, which is supposed to be she is given a very warm welcome in at garden court, which is the Touchett family estate. Now Isabel is a very intelligent lady. It's a very intelligent girl, and they both are taken by Isabel's beauty and good nature, both in the sense Mr. Touchett and their son Ralph. They are both immediately taken by Isabel's beauty, good nature, intelligence, the overall persona that she has. Now, we come to know that Mr. Touchett and Ralph are both unwell. Mr. Touchett due to old age, and Ralph is unwell on account of tuberculosis or consumption. And remember, this was the period when tuberculosis had no cure. Nowadays, tuberculosis is treated as just another disease or ailment. But in those days, tuberculosis meant a death for sure. So Ralph was down with tuberculosis, a young man, but then he was all the time ill because of tuberculosis. Now, when they meet for the first time, there is another person who is there. That is a young and dashing Lord Warburton. He is the Touchett's neighbor, their immediate neighbor, and he is like others. He is also attracted by the beauty and grace of Isabel. Now, after spending 4 months at Garden Court, Isabel is grateful for the goodwill the Touchetts have shown towards her, and she is attracted by their reclusive yet beautiful rural lifestyle. We all know that the English countryside is very beautiful, and she's very much attracted. She's very much charmed by the beauty of the countryside, and she spends a time daily with her, lot of time daily with her uncle and cousin. Now, remember, before coming to England, she had very good offers. She had very good proposals for marriage, but then she had refused them all. Now, here again, when she moves around in the society, I mean, there are people who are attracted by her beauty. There are people who are attracted by her personality. And wherever she goes, she in a way attracts attention. Now, it is during this time that we also know that Mr. and Mrs. Touchett have succeeded in a long marriage by spending majority of their time apart. They have lived apart, often living in different countries, England and America, so to say. So they have lived separately for a greater part of their lives, and it has been a long marriage and a distant marriage, of course, where Mrs. Touchett used to spend a lot of time in America, and she used to visit her husband and son whenever she wanted. So that's the kind of life that Mr. and Mrs. Touchett have lived. Now, one day, Lord Warburton offers to take her on a tour uh, to this castle property that he has. And Isabel agrees. She is all the time spending her time with her uncle and cousin. So she agrees to Warburton's proposal. He takes her around the property, shows her the beautiful property that he has, and he also introduces her to his two sisters. And while they are going around, while this is going on, Warburton proposes all of a sudden to Isabel. Now Isabel is completely taken aback. She's shocked. She was never prepared for this proposal, but a graceful lady that she is, she rejects his offer as politely as she can. Though, she is shell shocked. It has come out of the blue for her. She rejects his offer as politely as she can, and tells him that she cannot compromise on her independence. Now, remember this, she doesn't want to compromise on her independence. She doesn't want to submit herself to this institution of marriage, where she might have to make a lot of compromises. Now, despite this rejection, Lord Warburton continues his visits to the garden court and remains as friendly and gentlemanly ever to this family and Isabel also. And Isabel also behaves with him in a very normal manner, in a as if nothing has happened between them. It is during this time that Garden Court has a new visitor, an American journalist by the name Henrietta Stackpole. Now, Isabel again is impressed by the successful career that she has built. This journalist, Henrietta Stackpole, has built, and she admires her for her successful career and personal independence. Now, personal independence is something that she cherishes cherishes a lot. She cherishes very much. Now, and she's impressed by the way Isabel has developed her career and has come down to Britain for her professional assignment. Now, Henrietta has come to England for a purpose. She is actually moving around, visiting different European countries and reporting on European lifestyles for her newspaper column. And Ralph, accompanies Isabel and Henrietta because he has access to the social scene in London. He accompanies Isabel and Henrietta to London and helps them understand the social scene in London. Henrietta is very frank, and it is her frankness, her personality and her attitude that ruffles a few feathers among the English elite. They are taken aback by her frankness, by her attitude, I mean, because it's a time when there is what you call Victorian norms, and people expect women to do certain things and not to certain things. They are expected to be coy, they are expected to be shy. And here is a girl who is very frank, who is very blunt, who says what she wants to say. And the elite, especially, because that is the circle where they move, where Ralph takes them, because he has access to that circle, because they are from a well-to-do family, they have their estate. The elite are especially shocked by by the attitude of this girl, Henrietta Stackpole. Now, while in London, Isabel, as I said, she casts a magic on people wherever she goes. Before coming to England, she was actually proposed by a wealthy and charismatic American businessman by the name Caspar Goodwood. But then, I mean, this was while she was in America. But there in America again, she had refused that proposal because she wanted to be independent. Isabel wanted to be independent. She, in fact, asks for something like 2 years time from Caspar Goodwood to decide on her proposal, on his proposal, sorry. And I mean, she is not interested in that institution of marriage.
Sorry to
At least she
interrupt, sir.
feels that she's
The
not.
slides are not
Pardon?
moving again.
Now,
It is stuck on fourth one.
okay, what I'll do is I'll keep changing the slide.
Yeah. Now it is changed. Yeah.
Now is it moving?
Yeah. It is moving now, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, Isabel, when she comes down to England, Caspar Goodwood follows her. I mean, such is her charm that Caspar Goodwood comes down to England, and then again proposes her. But Isabel rejects that proposal. She tells him that she cannot sacrifice her personal freedom. Remember, I'm using this term again and again because that is the hallmark of this novel, personal freedom. And we'll see what happens to her personal freedom later on. But it is because she doesn't want to sacrifice her personal freedom that she rejects Caspar Goodwood's proposal also. Now, remember, this fellow has come all the way down from America to England. He has followed her and then proposes to her, and she rejects his proposal because she wants to be independent. She doesn't want to sacrifice her personal freedom, and she is more interested in experiencing Europe, in visiting different countries in Europe, knowing them, seeing different countries in Europe, and appreciating their culture. And that is why, I mean, she doesn't want to get into this institution called marriage. And she explains to him, in fact, that she would not make a good wife. Now, remember this. She explains to her logic is that she will not make a good wife. That is what she tells Caspar Goodwood, who has traveled all the way from America to England to propose to her again. I mean, she had this proposal when she was in America, but she had refused that proposal. Now he is chasing her to Europe, and again she refuses that proposal. Now, it is during this time that she comes across Madame Merle, an American expatriate and an old friend of Mrs. She starts visiting Garden Court, and she develops a kind of a good friendship with Isabel. Remember, she is an American expatriate. She is an old friend of Mrs. Touchett, and therefore she keeps visiting Garden Court, and she strikes a good friendship with Isabel. It is during this time that Mr. Touchett's health declines further. Now, Ralph is very much a kind of a support for Isabel Archer. Ralph, of course, is her cousin, Mrs. Touchett's son. He convinces his father, he convinces Mr. Touchett to leave a portion of his property to Isabel in his will. I mean, he realizes that his father could pass away at any point of time, and therefore he convinces his father to leave some part of his property to Isabel so that she could continue with that personal freedom that she has, so that she is not dependent on anybody, so that she is financially independent, and in any case that wealth may be properly utilized. So it is Ralph who plays an important role in convincing his father to leave a portion of his property for Isabel so that she can be independent, so that she can live her life on her own terms. And Mr. Touchett agrees to this. Now, when Mr. Touchett passes away, Isabel doesn't know anything of this. She is surprised to find that Mr. Touchett has left for her a huge property. I mean, she had never anticipated that this would happen, and she had no idea that Mr. Touchett would leave some kind of a property for her. But she is surprised that Mr. Touchett has left for her a huge property, and she accepts her uncle's generous gift. And she also vows to use that money to make meaningful changes in the world. She hopes to use that money to make a difference in the world, to make the world a better place to live, to use it properly. Now, with the money that she has got, Isabel begins traveling to Europe, and accompanying her on this European tour are Mrs. Touchett and Madame Merle. Mrs. Touchett and Madame Merle are the two people who accompany her during the European tour, where they visit different locations in England, France, and Italy. It is in Florence that Madame Merle introduces Isabel to another American expatriate by the name Gilbert Osmond. Now, Gilbert Osmond is an older gentleman, but he is a man of tastes. At least that is what we come to know in the initial part of the novel, that he is a man of tastes. He is what you call a connoisseur. That is what at least he pretends to be. Now, Isabel is attracted towards this elderly gentleman on account of his worldly experience, artistic taste, and non-conforming personal life. You know, she is attracted by this elderly, she's attracted towards this elderly gentleman. Now remember, he's not a young man. We have seen how young men have been attracted towards Isabel. But here is a case where Isabel is attracted towards Osmond, who is an elderly gentleman. She likes the way he shares his worldly experiences, his artistic taste, his non-conforming personal way of life. And Madame Merle somehow arranges for the two to spend a lot of time together. But Isabel is unaware of the fact that Osmond and Merle are collaborating for Osmond to take advantage of Isabel and her new wealth. You know, remember, anybody can be charmed by the beauty, by the grace, by the overall personality of Isabel. But we have, maybe for the first time, Isabel getting attracted by somebody. But then that is a result of the constant meeting that they have, and Madame Merle plays an important role in it. And we'll find out what kind of relationship Madame Merle and Osmond have. That's a different thing. We'll find out later on. But Madame Merle and Osmond are collaborating so that Osmond can take advantage of the innocence of Isabel and take advantage of the new wealth that she has inherited, so to say, from Mr. Touchett. Now, it takes around it takes around 4 months of regular meeting for Osmond to propose to Isabel. Now, it's a big shock for many people who know her, that Isabel actually accepts the marriage proposal of Osmond. Remember, he is not a young man. He is not financially well off as well. I mean, unlike her, the earlier proposers, Osmond doesn't have wealth on his side. He doesn't have age on his side. He is not young. He is not wealthy. And yet, Isabel is impressed by the worldly knowledge that he has, the artistic taste that he has, and accepts Osmond's proposal. Now, remember, when this proposal is accepted by Isabel, her family, I mean, so to say, her immediate family, Mrs. Touchett, Ralph, her friends, they all warn her not to get into this marriage, not to get into this relationship. There is a lot of mistrust that people have about Osmond, but still Isabel accepts his marriage proposal, believing that their marriage will lead to her financing his artistic exploits, and that she finds a worthy cause to invest her money in. Remember, when she had got this property, she had taken a vow to use that money for a worthy cause. Now, she feels that financing the artistic exploits, the artistic tastes of Osmond is a worthy cause. And somehow she falls into that trap and marries Osmond, much against the wishes of her immediate family and her friend circle as well. Now, usually a very perceptive individual, usually who has lot of intelligence, who can see through all the what you call what were schemings for once. I mean, she's completely blind to the serious flaws in the character of Osmond, and sorry, and agrees to the marriage proposal. Now, after the marriage, Isabel has a child, but that child passes away in 6 months' time. She has shifted to Rome, and in 2 years' time, she realizes that her marriage is a disaster. This is not what she had, what she had expected. This is not what she had anticipated from her marriage with Osmond. She had very high regards for him, for his artistic taste, but now she realizes that he is using her only as an object, where she wants, where she is taken as somebody who is an addition to his art collection. She is just a showpiece when they have social interactions. I mean, he only needed probably her wealth and a beautiful object around him when there is a social meeting, when he needs to interact with people socially. I mean, there is a lot of frustration in Isabel also. This is not what she had wanted. This is not what she had expected out of that marriage. And she realizes that Osmond is deceitful, very selfish, and a dominating individual. For him, Isabel is nothing more than another addition to his, if we call, collection, art collection or collection of art. Nothing more than that, an object, a piece of art, nothing more than that. And she is simply shocked to find out that Osmond is very selfish, deceitful, and dominating, a very dominating individual. Now, the only silver lining, so to say, in the marriage is Pansy. Pansy is supposed to be Osmond's daughter. She is a young girl, and she has been educated in a convent. She has been brought up in a convent for some reason. I mean, we'll later on come to know why she was sent to the convent. So Pansy is one character whom she gels with, gels well with. In fact, Pansy is an intelligent yet obedient girl who obeys all the wishes that her father has for her. And uh, she is courted. It's not Isabel, it's actually Pansy, who is courted by her childhood acquaintance, Edward Rosier. I mean, she is in love with this young man called Edward Rosier. There is a correction in the slide. It's actually Pansy. Pansy is courted by her childhood acquaintance, Edward Rosier, who is a young art collector. He is not a wealthy person. And it is because of this that Osmond doesn't like him. But Isabel supports this relationship that Pansy has with Rosier. I mean, she supports Pansy and Rosier's love. But then Osmond opposes it because Osmond realizes that Rosier hardly has any wealth, and he has no career prospects as well. There is no future as an art collector. There is nothing that he might become in the days to come. So he is opposed to that the relationship of Pansy and Rosier, simply because Rosier does not have wealth. Neither does he have any career prospects, according to Osmond. Now, Osmond wants Pansy to marry Lord Warburton instead. Remember, it's the same Warburton who had proposed to Isabel. Now, this Lord Warburton is after Pansy, but Pansy is in love with Rosier. So, Osmond wants Pansy to marry Lord Warburton, of course, because he has wealth. He belongs to an aristocratic family, and as a father, I mean, it is only natural that he might prefer Lord Warburton over Rosier. But then we realize that Warburton is following Pansy not for her, but to be closer to Isabel. His target is not Pansy. Pansy is just what you can call a medium, so that he can come close to Isabel. And Isabel, of course, realizes that he has an ulterior motive, and Isabel realizes it, and she doesn't like Warburton using Pansy to come close to her. In the meanwhile, Isabel learns that Ralph's health has seriously declined and he is nearing death. His condition has deteriorated and he might not live for long. And she desperately wants to visit Garden Court so that she could be with Ralph during during his last few days that might be there for him. But Osmond doesn't permit her to visit Ralph. He doesn't want her to go. It is during this time that Isabel learns another shocking truth, and that is about Pansy. She realizes that Pansy is actually the child of an affair between Osmond and Madame Merle. It has been a secret that has been hidden from Pansy all through her life, and it is a big shock for Isabel. It's something that she cannot digest. She was already frustrated in that marriage with Osmond. But then it is a big shock for her to know that Pansy is a child born out of an affair between Osmond and Madame Merle. And Isabel is shocked to know this, but at the same time, she pities Merle for her immoral and lonely existence. She doesn't realize why Madam Merle should have not brought up Pansy, and that is why we know that Pansy has spent all her life in convent. She has been educated in convent, away from her father, not because she did not have a mother, but because her mother had disowned her. Madame Merle was Pansy's real mother. Now, before there is a conflict as far as Isabel's visit to England is concerned. Isabel badly wants to visit Ralph so that she is there on his side when he breathes his last. And there is a conflict between the two. Pansy realizes that Isabel would definitely go to England. But then before leaving for England, Pansy begs Isabel to return to Rome for her. Though Isabel is Pansy's stepmother, but then Pansy is very close to her. Pansy finds a big support in her in Isabel, and Isabel finally leaves for England without Osmond's permission. But before leaving, she promises Pansy that she would definitely be back as soon as possible. Now, at Garden Court, Isabel comforts Ralph till he passes away. She is devastated by his death. It's a big shock for her. Of course, she knew that it was coming, but she cannot come to terms with that loss. And she extends her stay in Garden Court. It is during this period that Caspar Goodwood again visits her, and he reiterates his commitment to her. He tells her that he loves her very much even now, and he suggests to her very passionately that they can run away together and start a new life. There is no point for her in continuing with that marriage. She should make a fresh beginning with him, and he is ready to accept her as she is. And next day, when Caspar Goodwood comes to the estate, he discovers that Isabel is not there. She has left the estate. when he meets Henrietta, Henrietta informs him that Isabel has returned to her husband in Rome. Sorry, it's not England, it's Rome. She has returned to her husband and her daughter Pansy in Rome, and that is something of a shock for Caspar Goodwood. Caspar Goodwood cannot understand why she shouldn't have agreed for a fresh start. They could have made they could have been very good partners for the rest of their life, and it is here that the novel ends. So the novel ends when we are told, probably, I mean, that is what we are informed by Henrietta, that Isabel has returned to her husband in Rome. It's not England, it's Rome, and to her husband. Now, it's very difficult to understand why she should be returning to a marriage that is a disaster. Why she should be returning to a husband who is deceitful, who uses her only as an object. But I mean, that is all that we have for discussion. We'll see about the now we'll see about that is the end of the novel. So here we have a lady who is fiercely independent, who wants to live her life on her own terms, but then falls in the trap that is prepared for her by Madame Merle and Gilbert Osborne. And she is frustrated in that marriage. She has no happiness in that marriage. There is nothing positive for that in her marriage, but she prefers to go back to her. Eventually, we find her going back to her husband, Osmond, who never appreciates her as a person, who never appreciates her individuality, who never appreciates the talent that she has. But she prefers to go back to her husband. She prefers to go back to her stepdaughter Pansy. Maybe for Pansy's sake, she goes back. We don't know. There are n number of reasons for that. There might be n number of reasons for it. I mean, it is open for discussion, but that is how the novel ends. Now, let us quickly run through the themes that we have in the novel. Now, the first important theme that we have in the novel is independence of women versus the institution of marriage. Now, remember, the protagonist of this novel, Isabel Archer, is a fiercely independent young woman who leaves America to explore the enchanting world of Europe. She is completely she is she is not that kind of a lady who would make compromises, and it is with this attitude that she comes to Europe. uh, I mean, remember, we are talking of the last part of the 19th century and the first part of the 20th century, where the social expectation was that she should be an obedient woman. She should be dependent on a man. But Isabel is very unlike that kind of a perception, that kind of a stereotype. She is she values her personal freedom very much. She prioritizes her personal freedom. She will not accept others imposing their will on her. I mean, it's only by her choice that she decides to marry Gilbert Osmond. Till then, there are many people who are chasing her, but she never agrees to those proposals because she fears losing her individuality, her personal freedom. And remember, she receives marriage proposals from men of high social standing, from men who have lot of wealth, who are well off, belong to aristocratic families. That kind of proposal she gets, but then she rejects all those proposals. And unlike the traditional Victorian marriage plots that we have, James's novels don't culminate in happy matrimony for Isabel. This novel where we find Isabel going back to a marriage that is already a disaster. Why she goes back, I mean, we'll see in the next slide. So her marriage with Osmond, Osmond as a husband, as a choice for husband, is a big shock for everyone. She ignores the warnings given to her by everyone, her close friends, her immediate family. Ralph even warns her not to get into it. But then we don't know, I mean, how she is attracted by Osmond, and she has rejected several wonderful proposals. And all of a sudden, she decides that Osmond is the right man for her. Remember, he is an elderly man who has a daughter, and she agrees to marry Osmond. She immediately, in fact, accepts his proposal. Probably she feels empowered in furthering the aesthetic tastes of Osmond. Probably she feels that she would be able to use her money that she has got from Mr. Touchett for a better cause, for a good cause, and she will be the financer in furthering the aesthetic tastes of Osmond. So she has that kind of an empowerment. But unfortunately, we know that she is badly mistaken. Now remember, she has the option of running away from a failed marriage. It's a disastrous marriage. It's a failed marriage where she has the option of running away when she comes to be at the side of Ralph during his last days. Caspar Goodwood again offers her a chance to make a fresh beginning, but then she refuses that chance, and she goes back to her husband, and she shows great commitment in going back to her husband, great commitment to the institution of marriage. Earlier, she was, I mean, fiercely independent. She stayed that way for a very long period of time. But then when she decided to get into this institution of marriage, even though it's a failed marriage, it's a disaster, she shows some commitment in going back to the institution of marriage. She shows some kind of motherly feelings also for Pansy, though Pansy is not her real daughter. She is her stepchild, stepdaughter. She feels concerned for her, and she feels that once she has committed, she must stay with that relationship. So, I mean, whether we agree with her or not is a different thing, but we must understand that it is about the independence of women versus the marriage institution of marriage. Now, the second important thing is the new world values versus the old world values. Now, the two countries involved, the major countries involved in this novel are America and England. America has always been, a symbol of new world values, where education is valued, where freedom is valued, whereas England stands for old world values. The old world charm that we associate with England is still there. So Isabel Archer travels from new world values, that is America, to explore old world values, that is England. She moves into the old world values but for some time she remains, she holds on to that new world values, the American values, so to say, even in England. She moves around, but she continues to hang on to those new world values of being curious, of being independent, of not being dependent on anybody. And another example of the new world values is Isabel's good friend, this journalist, American journalist Henrietta Stackpole. She is very blunt and career driven. She has a very career driven lifestyle. She is an out and out American. She's very blunt. She's very career driven, and she ruffles a lot of feathers in the English elite society. I mean, they don't like the way she speaks frankly. She is on your face. She if she doesn't like anybody, if she doesn't like anything, she is there to say it. And they both symbolize this new world values. But then unfortunately we find this lady Isabel Archer, the protagonist of the novel, with these new world values, getting trapped and accepting the old world values. Here we are considering the institution of marriage as a part of old world values. Accepting that, okay, this is what my fate is, and this is what I have to live. I have to live through this. The other theme is the theme of betrayal. It's a story of betrayal. You will all agree that this innocent girl Isabel, though fiercely independent, but she's innocent, and she's trapped in a way by Osmond and Madame Merle. She is betrayed by Osmond badly. It is only after her marriage that realizes that Osmond is not the kind of person she would have liked to have as a husband. He is completely opposite of what she wanted. It's a complete betrayal of her innocence, of her trust that she had reposed in Osmond. She could have had lived a better life with maybe Lord Warburton, Caspar Goodwood, but then she is somehow trapped and then betrayed by Osmond and Madame Merle as well. Remember, Madame Merle has an important role in trapping Isabel, and that is why it's a tale of betrayal as well. These are some of the references that I have used. You can also go to the original website and find out there is a lot of good material available there. And I hope I have tried my level best to do justice to this important text. I hope I have succeeded in my attempt. Thank you for your patient listening, and I hope that this will help you in the examination as well. Wishing you all the very best for the examination. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very interesting session. Thank you for engaging this interesting session on The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, a very popular novel of 18th century. So explain the situations and the character. Young American Isabel Archer, who ventures to England in pursuit of cultural broadening and attracts the attentions of so many people. Thank you so much, sir, for this very interesting session. On behalf of the host institution, I express a sense of gratitude to you. Thank you so much. Thank you all the students for your great attendance. Tomorrow again we will meet at the same time with the new session with the new resource person. Thank you so much.